Good day, Mr. Donald Trump. It is the 3rd of December 2020. Um, I'm responding onto your media conferences that you sent about a couple of hours ago in American time. It is about 20 past 8 in South African time. Um, as the existing president up until the 20th of January, and hopefully you'll be the president after that as well, I believe that as a global citizen, it is imperative that you deal with this corruption of election fraud with the punity that it requires, irrespective of what happens after the 20th of January. I believe strongly that criminal proceeding cases must be instituted against anybody, and I mean anybody, that has violated the constitutional principles that you are so strongly advocating. You must understand that this election of yours has a direct bearing on every global community who advocates democracy. Um, I'm a strong believer in freedom, especially individual freedom, where I have a right to make decisions. As you know, we also have a constitutional based concept, and with reference to our Bill of Rights. If you as a country do not deal with the members within your own country who continue to believe that we can manipulate the system, then your avocation of democracy to the rest of the global community then becomes irrelevant. And it also then destroys the moral basis of a society that believes they have the right to decide what is their direction which they would like to take to ensure that they have a society that is harmonious, conscious, and morally ethical. It's not just about having laws in the country. It's about having a moral basis where you can actually ensure that you and your future generations of your family members has the right to determine their own destiny. For anybody other than yourself to decide what you may or may not do is in itself it's a genocide concept. It's a genocidal mentality that will destroy the global community. So I'm just as disheartened to see the blatant behavior of a citizen of a country to deliberately want to sabotage another person's right, especially when it comes to the observation of the procedures that is required to make a fair election. I mean, I saw the picture of how the officials boarded up the windows with sheets. You got to be joking me. And if your judicial system, your magistrates, your prosecutors are complacent as a citizen, then you have a serious problem. And my question to you is, I haven't been able to do research on this, but in South Africa, we have a constitutional court that is put in place to ensure that any forms of legislation or process or procedures will determine whether it meets the Bill of Rights requirements. Okay, so if you do have a constitutional court structure, where are they? Why have they not come forward and saying, listen, sorry, this is not constitutional. It is in violation of the Bill of Rights, which you guys are very strong on and which I'm very happy about. But what are you not doing? Why are you not doing something about it? How can a judge go against legislation that says a legislator is the only person? That means your judges are not competent in any way. Where do you follow the bus when a magistrate or a judge says, but it's okay, the lower structures can do whatever they want to, when you have specific legislation says otherwise? So I'm also one of the supporters to saying, continue with the process of ensuring that the election actually is free and fair. For anybody to say you don't need identification to verify that you're a voter, I mean, that's the basis of your freedom in any case. is to identify the persons that are voting. As much as we have the concept of secret voting, but you can't have a situation where a court says you don't have to have identification. Then quite frankly, stop the democracy ideology, stop the right to freedom, stop the right to constitutional rights, because you are saying to me as a South African citizen who have been advocating democracy that you're a bullshitter. I am a strong believer. I advocate that you must have the individual right. So how do I, as an international community member, want to support a concept of democracy ideology, sees this kind of things happening in a country that promotes or promotes democracy on the will of the people? It is clear that, and I have advocated in South Africa, we need to look at our universities. I mean, here's the thing. We as citizens who have the opportunity to send our children to university are paying people to destroy our children. So what kind of oversight or accountability are we having on universities and even schools? What are you teaching my children that is going against the principles of me wanting to ensure that my children have an understanding of morally right education, of I have a right for an education that teaches me how to be an accountable economic citizen? Because that's basically what we want to do. We want to educate people to ensure they're able to make sound economic decisions in order to ensure their financial viability as a human being. So when I did a course at the University of Potchefstroom, I picked this thing up. We're driving kids to a certain direction. Now, as much as I am critical on, let's use religion as a basis of my argument. I have no qualms having religion in society. I don't. But what I have a problem with is when people are making decisions, and this concept I'm talking about, and it might seem controversial. Be pro-life, no problem. However, and this is what I picked up one of the videos of one of your American opinionists, if I can put it that way. You are so pro-life that you have not given an alternative for children that are born or about to be born in very difficult economic situations. You cannot take that away from an individual to say it's a crime to commit if you abort the fetus or the child, whatever you want to come on. My statement then to you is as follows. If you are going to be pro-life, then those who are pro-life must ensure that each and every child that is born and does not have the financial means to go through life must pay. I'm sorry. And you mentioned something about common sense. It's common sense to know that a child that's going to be brought into this world and for the next 20 odd years is going to suffer. According to me, that is worse than aborting a child. It baffles me that we are so indoctrinated. And that is the basis of my argument, that you're taking the free will of a person to make a decision. But if you expect people to go in a certain direction, then you must support that person. I'm baffled. I'm really, this is why I'm making the video. Mr. Trump, with all due respect, you need to not allow this to go past. And I support you when you're saying we cannot allow the fraud to take place. There are far-reaching circumstances. It's not just America that's going to be negatively impacted, but it's the global community that's going to be impacted. People like me, then I lose faith in what you as the American society has been trying to tell the rest of the world. Follow democracy, follow the free will, follow the right to be an individual. And as far as I'm concerned, that any of those BLM and whoever they are, okay, needs to be criminally charged. This thing, because it happens in South Africa, where people get protest and then they get off. The prosecutor doesn't prosecute. Nonsense. In our Bill of Rights, which by the way, South Africans do not want to respect, it says you have a right to protest and it mustn't be violent. And yet our judicial system allows these individuals. The moment you allow an individual, whether it's in a mob system, it doesn't matter to me. But when you allow an individual in a mob to get away with it, it sends a message that I can get away with anything I do because it's a protest. A protest is unarmed. When you lift your fist up, it's a weapon. I don't care what anybody says. When you take a chair or a stone and you throw it through a window, it's a weapon. You're committing a criminal act. And as far as I'm concerned, the Criminal Procedures Act says very clearly what is a crime. Vandalism is a crime. Arson is a crime. So how can you allow a society to believe that they are above a criminal law? There are processes and procedures you can put in place. So then use those processes and procedures. But you as the president of a country that advocates a free world society, you cannot let this happen. And I'm glad that you did not concede. It's brilliant. And as far as I'm concerned also, that the media fraternity needs to be taken to task. The corporate structures of how, okay, let me rephrase. The corporate industry is one of the biggest instigator of destruction of society. I don't care what anybody says about it. When you think because you got money that you can destroy people by using the media is unacceptable. And yes, and I think South Africa must also do this, is that no social media platforms should ever have the right to determine what is acceptable or what's not. Yes, pornography of children is unacceptable. Yes, it's a moral thing that. Advocating hatred, I can understand that. But there must be rules in place that can stop this type of people. I should have the right to speak. And yes, my views might be controversial or maybe considered to be morally unacceptable, but there must be some form of boundary where it says, I am against hate speech. Trust me when I say this. And this is what the social media has allowed to happen and not take the individuals to task. You're blatantly seeing violent crime or criminal activities taking place, and you as the media are not saying a bloody word about it is not acceptable. So my message to you basically is deal with these people. If a legislator says it's a criminal offense to even allow Mr. President, Mr. Donald Trump, please listen to me. If the legislator or the process and procedure says that not one simple vote has not gone through the due process it's supposed to be, you need to take it to task and you need to deal with it. It is unacceptable that a group of people would allow a society to be subjected to unethical behavior, even to the extent, as far as I'm concerned, criminal behavior. Then your election means nothing to the rest of the world. And it's the duty of every voter, and my recommendation to you, Mr. Trump, is the following, is that every voter steps forward and saying, I want my vote recounted. I want to see the evidence that I voted for a particular party. Whether it's going to cause chaos or unprecedented destruction, but it is your duty as the president of the country who has promoted democracy concepts to request a complete overhaul of every vote. Every member of society must be contacted and stipulate under oath in a statement to saying, I casted my vote. No, I didn't cast my vote, and I voted for X, Y, and Z. Irrespective. And if you get that, if you can get that done, and show to the global world that we show a zero tolerance to any forms of corruption when it comes to fraud, I believe that society, the global society, and the communities that believe in a fair election is going to step up also. So you must understand, your election is not just about you anymore. It's about me as a South African citizen who believes in the Bill of Rights, who believes in a fair vote, who believes that I have a right to make a decision that I think is best for myself, my family, and the future. We have a guy called Big David Liberty, who cast the 4 concepts of freedom, faith, family, and flag. And I'm a supporter of that. And you need to, as a society, say, look, guys out there, look, we took the responsibility, we fixed up the mess, and yes, we trust in doing the right thing. So I'm saying to you, please do the right thing. Use your legislation or your criminal procedures, and as far as I'm concerned, you need to charge those judges and fire them. Because a man with such amount of knowledge should know better than to make a decision that is against legislation that says you may not make that decision. And if you have a problem with the legislation, then go and fix it up in your parliament structures. So I hope that this will come to you or get to you, and I hope I get some confirmation through the media that you are saying very clearly, I am not going to tolerate this, and I'm going to institute it. Whether you're the president or not, remember, you're still a citizen, and you can then push it as a citizen to saying, I want criminal procedures to be taken place against these individuals. I don't care if there's 30, 40,000 citizens sitting in jail. They must go sit in jail. I'm sorry. You cannot allow that 30,000 citizens to destroy 200 odd million citizens in your country. There is no way that we can allow that. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care that it's going to take a process to get it done. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. So it is imperative that you stand your ground. I am appalled. And as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Trump, you should take legal proceedings against those fucking members. Sorry for the word. I'm apologizing. Now I'm getting upset. But you should take criminal proceedings against any public representative that has been part of the process of discrediting you as the president. We have the same problem. We're sitting with a man that's inciting genocide violence towards other citizens. And we can't allow it because public representatives are not being held accountable. You might be immune in your structures in your parliaments, but when you go outside that parliament and you start making statements and allegations against an individual in a public domain, you're not exempted from that. So, Mr. Trump, I do understand that this could be a lengthy process, but I plead with you from a democratic ideological person, don't let this go past. You're a tough man. I've seen you on the programs of You're Fired. You're a no-nonsense person, and you should continue to be a no-nonsense person. And you must show the citizen in the country and into the global community, this is what a president's all about. I supported you for one reason, that you're a businessman. And I've been advocating that we need a quality businessman to run our economies. Not these hooligans that claim to be economically educated and all those kind of things. You got the experience, you got the knowledge. You have shown your success. For any citizen in your country to discredit you as a successful person in your country, it is a disgrace. So please, I plead with you, don't let this thing go past. And give the faith to everybody. It's not just Americans that need that confidence. It's the whole global community. So my number is 078 907-6275. That is South African. I think the South African code is +27, if I remember correctly. Please give me a call. Let's have a conversation. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you did for the Americans. I'm also pro-South African. I'm also have the concept of South African first. We are sitting with a situation in this country where we have foreign contingent members, sorry for that, who are illegally entering a country and taking my economic opportunity away. And you must understand something. I am a voter of my country. What does your American voters think when a group of members of their society is saying, we would want for illegal foreigners so we can create cheap labor, so that we can financially benefit? I think that's an insult. That is the worst form of human rights violation that you can ever get in a supposedly electoral concept of a country. How do you justify to say to me as a citizen, and let's use the Americans, I was appalled that an American company would close down a factory or a shop to go to China, for example, or to another country in order to justify his maximized profitability. Where do you fall out of the bus? How can your government, your public representatives that you have elected, to allow that to happen in your states? What kind of sane man does that? But yet you come to the voter and say, vote for me because I can do better for you. Oh, but by the way, we're signing trade deals where the company is going to go to another country. How do you justify that? So what you're doing is right. Your citizen comes first. And by saying your citizen comes first, that means their economic opportunities come first. So fight the fight. Get the people behind you. And if you don't do that, Mr. Trump, I'm telling you now straight, no two ways about this. You're going to have a civil unrest that's going to be detrimental not just for your country, but for the whole global world. Because then we're going to have to again choose which side we must fight. And that's been a problem. It is a big problem that Americans, and I support your view on this issue of trying to save other countries from a potential problem. We have international courts. Why are we not using the international courts to deal with so-called corrupt leaders or authoritarian leaders? Why are we not doing that? Why is America not going to the international court? Why do you want to go into another country to cause war? Because there's a selective group of your members who use these wars to justify economic viability and sustainability. And I'm talking this from a global member now. We see it. It is not just about you anymore. It's about me. And I support you getting out of the WHO, the World Health Organization, and all these organizations that are asking money from you, and they're doing nothing, and they're not making, as far as I'm concerned, they're not making an impact. So you must understand, it is not just about your American citizens anymore. It is about the global community. So by all means, please give me a call. We can talk more. And I'm talking honestly. I don't need to, I'm not a BSer. I speak from here and I speak from here. Because that also puts a precedent on the rest of the community, global community, saying, hey, wait, you know what? We better watch ourselves here. So please give me a call. And again, I say to you, don't stop. Okay, I'm supporting you. I believe in you. What you're doing is right. It's right. And it's just and it's fair. Peace up. Support you all the way. And thanks for listening to me.